Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. And so we're just a couple of days away from the brand new season, and I do plan on doing a build of the new card released in the premium season pass as soon as it comes out. So on Tuesday, expect a video covering the new card, but until then, we do have 5 cards left. We only have 5 cards left to pull from the collection log. And of those 5, we have Gambit, we have Mystique, and we have Wong. So we have some really good cards left to pull. And then we have Black Widow, which I have wanted. I think it'd be good in like a Debris style deck. And then finally we have Wasp, which is the only one that I'm just so on. But even Wasp has its uses. We are going to go ahead and jump in and try to pull another card. And while we load that up, thank you guys so much for continuing to be here, continuing to show up and support the channel. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can pull a new card. We get gold the first time, we get boosters the second. And then we get a new avatar, we get Claw, which is not terrible. Okay, so then for our next pull, we have 200 credits. So then for our next one, we have... Guys, we've been waiting so long for this moment. Okay, so all jokes aside, we did get Wong, and Wong is a really good card in a pretty good spot right now. He has the ongoing ability, your on reveal abilities at this location happen twice. So we've seen him in discard decks. We've seen him with Gambit. We've seen him with the Exodia combo. We've seen some really good utilization from him. And so I'm really excited to kind of jump in and see what we can build, because he can turn some mediocre on reveal abilities into some pretty good ones. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump over into the deck build really quickly, and then I will be right back. Alright, so we did end up drafting a deck list. What I think is going to be, right now, the most consistent and the best deck list for Wong, and that is a Dracula Apocalypse Swarm discard deck. Now, I know that we covered a discard deck recently, and so I'm going to go ahead and throw that deck list on the screen because I only made one key change to this deck list. We took out our underperformer Calling Wing, and we switched it with Wong. So the thought process is, so with Calling Wing targeting Swarm, our biggest win condition in this deck list is our Morbius, our Apocalypse or Dracula, and Collector. So Swarm, having it trigger one additional time didn't feel phenomenal. It just felt okay. And so making the switch to Wong, that gives us an additional win condition. So if we don't draw into Dracula, we can drop Wong, and then all of our discard cards will trigger twice. If we don't draw into Wong, we can do Dracula, and then we can play our discard cards as normal to then draw into our Apocalypse at the end of the game. It gives us a lot of flexibility to even out or make that power level even more consistent than it already was. So I went back and forth on if I wanted to cover a discard deck with Wong first, or if I wanted to try something else, another on reveal style ability. But I feel like this one is a prime target to get balanced very quickly, especially with Hell Cow and the archetype just running rampant right now. I feel like before too long, this is not going to be as great of a deck list, and so I wanted to showcase it while it is kind of in its prime. And then of course, we'll cover Wong in depth in other deck lists later, but for the first one out, I wanted to showcase his very best deck list. And so for those of you that may not have seen the deck list, I'm going to keep this short because we do have another video that's very similar. There are a couple of key cards in this deck list in our Morbius, Collector, Swarm, Apocalypse, and Dracula. So Morbius and Collector are going to get buffed up every time we discard a Swarm or an Apocalypse. Morbius will get buffed every time we discard any card, and Collector is only going to get buffed up whenever a card returns back to our hand. So Swarm or Apocalypse, whenever they come back to our hand after being discarded, will buff up the Collector. Dracula is going to allow us to play our discard cards into the 6th turn, knowing that we're still going to be able to pull into our Apocalypse and capture that increased power level from that final turn. And so almost every single game, we're going to be setting up for our final turn all the way up through turn 4 and 5. So most likely on the first couple of turns, we're only going to drop maybe a Morbius and a Collector. That will leave us a really good hand size to drop our Nakia on 3 or 4, followed by a Wong and then our discard cards, or Dracula and then our discard cards, cards, it gives us a lot of flexibility, and we can really consistently set up and drop a big Nakia onto the board. And then we have our discard cards, so our Blade, our Hell Cow, and our Lady Sif, so the kind of the key discard combo. And being able to trigger these either twice or even just once to then ultimately pull back in your Apocalypse and absorb that power is massive. And then our last discard card is Moon Knight. This could be switched for a Gambit if you have it. I don't have a Gambit unlocked just yet, but I think either one would do well in this position. Moon Knight can excel in trying to make the opponent discard some of their key cards earlier. So if they're running a Hela deck, maybe you can get them to accidentally discard that Hela. But if you're up against a mirror match, Moon Knight is going to be at a disadvantage because you're going to play into their hand most likely. Yes, you can potentially hit a Dracula or a Morbius, a Collector, but you can also hit a Swarm or an Apocalypse and further their upside by playing Moon Knight. So in my opinion, in the mirror match, Gambit performs a little bit better, or would, in theory, perform a little bit better since we haven't been able to test it out. And then rounding out the deck list, we have Chavez to help even out our draw up to turn 6. And then on the turn 6 play, if we have a big Apocalypse already, we can just drop Chavez and know that Apocalypse is going to get absorbed. It gives us some flexibility in what we want to play and where we want to place our power on turn 6. And so that is the general idea of the deck list. If you want a more in-depth version, go ahead and check out our other discard video from a couple of days ago. I will leave a link here and in the description. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into a few games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so first up we have For the Horde, and I do enjoy that name. I dabbled in Warcraft for a while, World of Warcraft, just about any kind of MMO I've tried or dabbled in. And so they do drop an Iceman, which does impact our Wong. So most likely we're not going to drop Wong this turn. So Wong friend, we're going to go ahead and drop our Morbius into this unknown lane. We don't want to set up the rocks in our hand just yet, but we also don't want to accidentally have him destroyed by playing into Hala here. And so we discard. Sokovia gives us the incredible upside, not that we necessarily need it, the incredible upside of dropping our Swarm for us, or discarding our Swarm for us, which then duplicates. And so do we risk it and play it into Hala? No, I think we hold it. I do want to play it just to potentially kill their Hala lane, but I don't think we necessarily risk it. And I mean, now honestly, we could do 6 power. So this may shoot us in the foot, but we could do 12 power. That is going to destroy their Collector, but it shoots us in the foot long term because we want to at least be able to absorb Swarms, which is going to be the biggest way that we buff up our Collector. So I think what we do is we bite the bullet, we take 1 hit in this middle location. That is going to add 3 rocks to our hand. We only have 2 more draws. We have a pretty big discard card in our Hell Cow already. And then we know that by the end of the game, this is probably going to end up being something like a 0. Or it's going to be probably a 2 at the end of the game. For this turn, I think we set up our Collector, and then we go ahead and play a Swarm here. Do we play 1 more card into the Gila? I don't think we do. I don't think we necessarily need to push that. Our Collector tends to get larger than our Morbius because he has the potential to get buffed up twice every time we discard a Swarm, whereas our Morbius is only 1 time every single card that's discarded. So we're going to put our Hell Cow into the Morbius lane in Sokovia, and then we are going to let it play out. They do force us to draw a card here with their Baron Mordo. And so with Ronin, they may also have a Maximus that could hurt our Dracula potential in that last turn. We'll just have to kind of see how it plays out. And then with us having the additional card in hand, Hell Cow is a lot less likely to hit our key targets, but it does get at least 1 upside in triggering Apocalypse. Then depending on what we draw into here, it's our Chavez. Do we gamble? All we need is so they can drop 2 cards. So they're going to be able to get up to 15 power here. This would get us even. Dracula is going to discard a card, which will buff up our Morbius, regardless of what he discards here. But I think we go with, if we're playing it into mid anyways, we might as well go with the 12 power Apocalypse. Hope that Dracula absorbs into our Chavez here. If not, it's okay. We already have a pretty big power push in this lane. But just in case they have something like a Moon Girl, Well, Moon Girl would only buff this up by 1. Actually, I think it's better if we play it over into Hala. And then depending on what Dracula draws into, their Ronin is going to end up being between 2 and 4 power, so they're going to lose a lot of their upside. A Moon Girl here is only going to duplicate 1 card. They don't have a lot of great options. So we're going to go ahead and lock this one in. I think, okay, so they have the Punisher. I don't think that does it for them. Then they play their last card, which is Blade. Definitely doesn't get it done. Depending on what our Dracula draws into, we may... Oh, no. We may win all 3 lanes, but we did need the Dracula discard to push our Morbius up over that 15 as planned. I lost the plan halfway along the way and started worrying that we tied this lane. But overall, we weren't able to use Wong because of Iceman here, but it gave us that flexibility. So had Iceman hit Dracula and we didn't have Wong, that would have put us at a pretty big disadvantage in this game because Dracula came in absolute critical in that last turn. All right, so next up we have Smash Bruno. And in our starting hand, we do have both our Morbius and our Collector. So we're going to be able to set up on turns 2 and 3, and then be able to play whatever we draw into on 4, 5, and 6 to help buff them up and enable them. Okay, so coming in first is the Hood. We, of course, don't have anything that we can play. Oof. And so then Bar with No Name does limit the space that we can play in by quite a bit. And so maybe we just drop the Collector into the unknown location because we don't want to drop it into Murder World. It's going to get destroyed on turn 3. Our really only option is to drop it into this last location. Okay, so they drop an armor. I was like, wow, what are you doing? So they drop an armor, so now it's not going to get destroyed from this location. Therefore, we'll split our Collector and our Morbius. We also have our Lady Sif that we'll be able to drop early to get an early trigger of Apocalypse here. And so they are... Ooh, I bet they have a Carnage or a way to destroy this lane. Would be my guess. So maybe they're running a Destroyer deck, and that may be what we're up against. And so typically our Collector will get larger than our Morbius. And so we're going to go ahead and play our Dracula. Dracula is going to be ideal in this game. And maybe we even set up, if we don't draw into a Swarm, maybe we even set up a Wong... Hellcow, Lady Sif, so a Wong on 5, a Hellcow, Lady Sif on 6 to potentially win these, or a Hellcow and a Moon Knight on 6. Just depends on what else we draw into. If we hit Swarm, maybe we want to go ahead and start discarding some of our cards and we forego Wong. But if we don't hit Swarm and we only have Apocalypse to boost us up, then it might be a good idea. So we do draw into Swarm here. And so now I think the best play we can do is going to be, do we hit them with a Moon Knight to try and have them discard their Destroyer, their Professor X, their whatever strategy they're going with, or do we go with the guaranteed trigger from Lady Sif here? We're going to switch. We're going to go with Lady Sif. It is the cheaper of the 2 options, but it has more power. I think it has a higher potential. And so we know that we need to beat 28 power in this lane, which is possible if we get the upside. So we did discard our Apocalypse once. We just hit the incredible upside of hitting our Swarm with the second Hellcow. Now Lady Sif is going to target our Apocalypse here. We know that we're going to have the potential to do, we have 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 puts us at 25. That Wong is getting in our way right now. Okay, so if we played the 16 here, 17, 18, 19, that's 25. When Dracula discards a card, it's going to be 26, 27. So no matter what it pulls into here, we'll still get the upside. I was thinking that Wong wouldn't quite be enough, but with the upside from Morbius, that's going to come in absolutely clutch and should win us this game. I don't know. They may do a big power push in like a Destroyer here. I'm not sure. Juggernaut. Oh, no. So they push our Swarm off, which is okay. I think we win the left and right lanes anyways. And so it does absorb the lowest possible card in our Wong. But because Morbius was here, Morbius got buffed up. It does push it up over that 28 power limit. We got very fortunate that the Juggernaut play did not pay out for him, that we had a high enough power level in Nova Roma already. Just very, very close game. But we were able to pull it out. Still weren't able to use the Wong just yet. The priority goes Dracula and then Wong, so Wong is there for games that we don't draw into our Dracula. All right, so next up we have Ghost Rider. And in our starting hand, we do have the Lady Sif Apocalypse combo. We also have Swarm. So we know that we're going to be able to start setting up for a pretty cool, or for a pretty big last couple of turn plays. So we're going to set up Morbius. He's going to move over in the Biodome from the Biodome. Oof, and they have a Black Widow. So this may be like that Widow Bite type deck where next turn they would have played Wave, but they can't because Sokovia discards it. So typically they would do Wave and then follow it up with an Odin, and so we wouldn't really be able to draw much at all the way up through the very last turn of the game. And so very, very fortunate that Sokovia hit our Swarm and discarded their Wave. And so I think off of that, we go ahead and snap. That may cause them to retreat here, and if so, that's okay. And then, I don't know, do we go ahead and hit the Lady Sif combo here, knowing that we probably won't draw into too many more cards? I think we wait. Well, we should draw into plenty of cards, but I am going to wait one turn. I would rather drop the Wong and then have Lady Sif trigger Apocalypse guaranteed twice. And so they are using a like disruption style deck, and so they do get the upside of a rock here. The Biodome is going to push everything over, and so I don't... Like we can play Wong here, we could play it here, it would get pushed over. And I know that there's some tricky mechanisms with dropping Wong and then it getting pushed over. The effect still showing here, but it actually being here. So to avoid that, I'm going to go ahead and just drop directly into Sokovia. And then they drop a Sandman, so it is one card per turn moving forward. That's pretty unfortunate, especially with Black Widow, which is I think a phenomenal use of that Widow Bite. So if we had still had the Widow Bite in our hand, we can only drop that card, or we have to go with not drawing any cards the remainder of the game. So we can only drop one card per turn. We can do Collector, and then we can drop our Lady Sif over here, which also feels kind of bad. But that would buff up our Collector twice, our Morbius twice, or do we just go with the double Lady Sif here? That will buff up our Morbius twice, and then we can drop our big Apocalypse onto the board next turn, depending on where they drop into. And so then they have an Omega Red. That is discouraging. Oh no. Okay, and so if we drop here, I think we lose this one. So if they go here to push 4 power here and here, we lose. If they go here, maybe we're okay. So they can only drop one card as well. So as long as they don't have like a Doctor Doom that pushes bots here and here, they're going to be trying to, I think, get that lead with Omega Red. So if we can sneak this one away and they can't get the upside from Omega Red in these lanes, I think we may be okay. And so we're going to go ahead and drop Apocalypse here, see what they drop. They get a pretty big Ronin. They win by 6, we win by 10. A very disruptive deck, Ghost Rider, very, very disruptive, because we have all of these good cards and all of these good combos, but we were just barely able to squeak it out. All right, so next up we have Lufty. And Lufty rocking a pretty cool avatar. I think we may need to switch ours up. But we do have the Lady Sif, the Apocalypse. To discard our Apocalypse guaranteed to buff it up, we have Nakia, and then now we're going to be drawing from the opponent's deck. I think we set up a Nakia, a Wong, and then a Lady Sif on 5, a Lady Sif and an Ironheart on 5, actually. Ooh. And then we get their Mr. Negative, so we have a pretty good upside here. I think 5 actually. We're only going to be able to drop one of the two because of Dream Dimension. So I honestly think we end up winning this one. We have their Mr. Negative. We know they're not going to be able to flip. We could drop their Mr. Negative and get the inversed card. No, it would inverse our cards, which would make it difficult for them to play because all of our cards are pretty high power. It's a thought. I don't know that it's a good thought, but it's a thought. And then we have Nakia here. I think we go with the playline we were thinking before. We go with Wong, we go with Lady Sif. That's going to allow us to drop a really big Apocalypse onto the board on 6. We could disrupt their draws with our Mr. Negative by switching our deck, but I just don't think. I don't think it's what we want to do, and so they drew into our Morbius and Hellcow, which are some pretty nice cards. If I do say so myself, I would run them if I had a discard deck. And then Dream Dimension does make our cards cost 1 extra. So we're just going to go with the 1 discard guaranteed hit of our of our Apocalypse from our Lady Sif here. It's not going to buff anything up, unfortunately. And then maybe we, depending on what we draw into, maybe we go with something a little bit different just to kind of confuse them. They're going to think we're going to be dropping Apocalypse here. Is that the play? It's a weird play, but is it the play? That will trigger our leader twice. So if they drop any card here, we're going to duplicate it. If they drop them here or here, we lose it. It's just crazy enough to work. That way we can be competitive in more than one. Other than that, I was thinking we do a Nakia, and then we do the double Ironheart to affect all of the lanes, but that's not really that great. So let's go with the double leader here. Hopefully they play, they just play just 1 card. So we get a double drop into the Gila. Because of that, we swing the middle location, we swing the Gila, and we pull out the win. So not a great standard discard game, but Wong was able to help us really propel and steal that win away. All right, so next up we have Plocho, and we do have the vault this game. So a Dracula, a Morbius, a Collector is going to be a good resource for us to have here. And actually, if we get a Morbius into Onslaught Citadel is pretty good. So we are going to go ahead and skip this turn. We're not going to drop our discard cards until we have it set up. So then we do have the Collector here. So I think we drop the Collector into the vault. We may potentially drop Dracula there as well, depending on what we draw into. And so they have multiple man. So they're probably going to have a pretty big power push into the vault or into one of the locations this game. And we don't have any of our cards to really set up a great in-game play. I'm thinking that maybe we do our Dracula here as well. Next turn, maybe we even drop the Wong. If we don't draw into any of our great resources that we need to play next turn, maybe we do a Wong. That's going to allow us to drop a lot of cards on that final turn for a really, really big power push onto the board. And so we get our Swarm here, but that's not huge. So maybe we drop Wong here. We're drawing into Chavez next turn. Since we're drawing into Chavez next turn, I think we go ahead and we hit the discards that we can. We don't need Lady Sif to trigger any of these. We do want to kind of thin out our hand so that we can let Dracula absorb our Chavez. And this could potentially make them discard their Heimdall, one of their big move cards, or something similar. And if we can hit a really key target with our Moon Knight here, it'll be incredible. And they have a Sentinel in a move style deck. And so we do hit our Swarm here. So our Collector is going to buff up ever so slightly. And then the Moon Knight hits their Heimdall. That is a 1 in 3. That is a 1 in 3 shot. And so we didn't really have a great way to bring that game home, because next turn we would have drawn into our Chavez. If we dropped Lady Sif at that point, it would target our Chavez, and then Dracula wouldn't be able to absorb it. So we would want to do something like a Nakia, a Swarm, Swarm, Swarm. Probably Nakia here, Swarm, Swarm, Swarm. That way Dracula had a 50-50 shot of grabbing onto our Chavez. And that's if that was going to push us up over and win here. And if not, then maybe we would just drop our Chavez, which would get a +5 power boost, and then Swarm, Swarm, and hope that was enough. We didn't have a solid way to bring it home, but that was 5 games in a row. I am going to go ahead and end the video here. So with Wong, you have the potential to high roll, but with Wong and Dracula, you do have the potential to high roll, but it's a lot more consistent. So on those games where you don't have your good resources, you can always drop your Wong, and then that's going to allow you to drop a lot of good resources on a 5 to then discard your cards and have a big play 6, even if you don't have your Dracula to draw into. But I am going to go ahead and end the video here after that one. I don't know that Chavez necessarily fits with the Wong and Dracula both in the deck. It helps thin it out early so you have a better chance of drawing one or the other. But whenever you draw both, it becomes really difficult to play because your turn 4 play is setting up your Wong, turn 5 is typically your discard, so that on turn 6 you can drop your Chavez along with either absorbing your Apocalypse or drop your Apocalypse and your Swarms and to be able to kind of utilize all of those resources. But I think as an idea, it works pretty well. And I don't have a great replacement for Chavez. I think having those earlier resources in your Morbius, your Collector, your Dracula, and then your discard cards is irreplaceable. I think it's incredibly valuable to have those early, and I don't know that there's a good replacement for Chavez in this deck list. And so with that being said, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow should be a free-to-play video, a last update before the season resets, and then the day after that will be the season reset. And you know that we're going to be testing out the new card. We're going to put out a deck list as soon as we get it, as soon as we get a good deck list built and games played. And so we're going to be pushing for that for our Tuesday morning upload. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below. It helps me know that you're enjoying the content, and I love interacting with you guys. I love seeing your thoughts, your opinions, and being able to bounce those ideas off of you guys. So I am going to go ahead and end the video here. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.